So there's a very popular old-time saying that said, make we use one stone and kill two birds. And the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, was able to do this at his recent trip to the beautiful island of Barbados, where the Caribbean met there for the heads of government meeting for the leaders in CARICOM. So on this trip, Dr. Andrew Holness and his team that include the Foreign Affairs Minister, Kamina Johnson-Smith, they were able to host a town hall meeting in Barbados. So this is a long-standing tradition where the leaders, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, over the years would normally go to places like Canada, the United Kingdom, America, anywhere that Jamaicans are represented, and they would go there with the Foreign Affairs Minister to host a town hall meeting, what they call a diaspora town hall meeting, and they would engage with Jamaicans living in the diaspora and giving them some up-to-date, update Jamaicans on what is really going on in Jamaica and give Jamaicans living in the diaspora an opportunity to invest back in Jamaica. So this is what the Prime Minister was able to do on his recent trip to Barbados, as he was already there to attend the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting along with the Foreign Affairs Minister, Kamina Johnson-Smith. So this was a very successful town hall meeting, if I should say so myself. Watching it, going over this meeting, it seemed to be a very successful town hall meeting. So I just want to go over a bit of what was highlighted, and then I'm going to show you what took place at that town hall meeting with the Prime Minister and the Foreign Affairs Minister. I have to give the Prime Minister some credit for his messaging. What I've realized since 2025 with Donald Trump and mass deportation and the talks of how many Jamaicans might be deported back to Jamaica, the Prime Minister seemed to strike this balance where he's not panicking. The Prime Minister seemed to be very confident that the Jamaican market, the job market in Jamaica, is ready for skilled Jamaicans coming back into Jamaica. And this message was carried along in his presentation today, that the unemployment rate is just under 4%, 3.2%, I think he said, and that having Jamaicans come back from overseas is not a bad idea. So as I say, I have to give him credit for that, because I don't think I've ever heard that from any prime minister when they go out in the diaspora to talk to Jamaicans. So the prime minister seemed to be very, very confident in the Jamaican economy, the job market in Jamaica right now, and that seemed to be his messaging, like, Jamaicans, come home. Come and build Jamaica, and that is not a bad message. So that is a part of what the Prime Minister had to say in this town hall meeting, along with, the development, the modernization of Jamaica, Jamaica being developed, the roads, the infrastructure, education. But one of the things that I myself, as a Jamaican living in the diaspora, talking to Jamaicans on a day-to-day basis, Jamaicans in the diaspora, for us, Jamaicans seem to just think of Jamaica, one problem in Jamaica, and that is crime. Whenever I talk to Jamaicans anywhere, whether it's in Canada or the USA, the number one thing that Jamaicans talk about is crime. And I've had a conversation over and over again. Every time I come across Jamaicans anywhere in the world, we have the conversation, and the conversation is just imagine Jamaica would be probably overpopulated if the crime rate was down. And that is a conversation that a lot of Jamaicans are having in the diaspora. And then with what is going on, with what we see going on in America, where they seem to be pushing out immigrants. Like, we see this appetite across the world where they are just pushing out immigrants. We see it in Europe, we see it in the UK, we see it in America, and now Canada, I think, is catching the fever. So I believe that a lot of Jamaicans are ready to say, you know what, let's go home. But the crime is the number one issue. And I believe that if this administration can do something about the crime, cut it to like 50%. If this administration can do something about the crime, Jamaica will be overpopulated. I guarantee you there are like millions of Jamaicans that would just want to come back. Because one of the things that I've realized over the years, more Jamaicans that I'm talking to in recent time that leave Jamaica for Canada, for America, when we have the conversation, a lot of these guys seem to be leaving Jamaica, leaving good jobs in Jamaica to come to Canada, to go to the United States of America. And when I sit down and I talk to them, like I talk to nurses, I talk to doctors, I talk to teachers, like people that are leaving good banking, finance jobs, accountant. And when I talk to those people, and I'm like, why would you leave, especially Canada? Because coming to Canada is like you have to start over. So whenever I talk to these people, coming to Canada, going to America, the one thing that they say that why they leave Jamaica is the crime. And they want their kids to grow up in a good environment. Despite the gated community, a lot of Jamaicans are still not comfortable. So if this administration can just take care of crime, I guarantee you Jamaica will be like packed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show some clips from the Prime Minister, the town hall meeting, and there was a Q&A round also in there. So you're going to be able to see Jamaicans in Barbados getting an opportunity to talk to the Prime Minister and to ask some questions. So here we go.
Whether it is to build the Panama Canal, whether it is the reconstruction of Europe or the building out of cities in the United States, or the migration into Cayman, Antigua, Barbados, Trinidad. Jamaica has been a net supplier of talent to the world. Obviously, it is the case to the point where a potential president of the United States, the vice president who ran, had Jamaican heritage strong. Her father, a Jamaican. That struggle, that long struggle, has led many Jamaicans seeking opportunities, whether it is better housing, better education, better roads, safety and security, economic opportunities to go elsewhere other than Jamaica. And now we are all over the world, in almost every country. And the truth be told, I visited China, and I was able to have a town hall meeting, not as large as this one, but considerable. I went to South Korea, I was able to have a meeting. I was in Belgium, all over Europe. The truth is that long struggle has spread our people all over the world. And it has been good, in a sense, because it has created considerable human capital for us. And we don't complain about the remittances that flow. Though I do often reflect on how productive the talent we have exported is in the countries that they have found residence, and how they have contributed to the GDP of those countries. And you do wonder, what have we lost? What could we have achieved if we had good economic management, if we had a solid rule of law, if we had good infrastructure? People who are, benefiting off brand Jamaica by portraying Jamaica in a certain light, they are limiting the ability of the government to raise the revenues to pay for the stipend of the students who are studying here. In other words, yeah, we get, 3 million plus tourists, but the truth is we could get 6 million tourists easily if there was not this association. And it comes in a real way when we get a travel advisory because of it. And the people who perpetrate the violence and who portray the violence don't see themselves as the cause of the travel advisory, which limits the tourists to come, which limits the revenues of the government, which prevents the students here from the government having the revenues to pay your stipend so that you can get your education and come back to Jamaica and contribute. That's the reality. We're going to mash up that crime dolly house. We're going to tear it down. The gangs have been a large part of this. And I keep saying that when we use the term gangs, it's really a euphemism. Because when you hear gangs, somehow in the mind of the public, it is a set of disenfranchised youngsters who have been deprived of economic opportunity, poor parenting, and poor education. That may be the case for the street level people who are just, fodder for the gang canon. But the truth is that the gangs are enterprise level operations. They use violence as a means of economic benefit. They organize violence. So it's not that, you got to, there's a street fight and somebody pull a knife and somebody got, no. This is a telephone call, go for the gun, you see that boy over there, so? He might go work at 8 o'clock. You wait at this stoplight, and when him stop, you deal with him case. That's organized violence. It's enterprise level. Called my friend in Miami and said, hey, think them get, them get busted, police gone with them, send down a new set. And they pack a barrel, wrap it up in a plastic, put all kind of things over them to shield it, yeah, and then ship it back to Jamaica. It's organized criminality. That's not the fellow who is deprived and disenfranchised. And that must be dealt with in the harshest way possible. And that is why we have made the investments now. The police force, when we took over the government, was somewhere about 8,000 to 9,000. The police force is now 14,000. That's at establishment. And it has not reached establishment for a long time. We have made the investment in the human capital of the police force. When you look at the JCF today, in terms of man and material and women, it's a different JCF. We have made investments in leadership. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's a 150-year-old organization. Certain cultural practices are embedded, organizational issues, but it's still an improving organization that is led by highly intelligent persons who are well-trained. It's an information-driven organization, and I am very proud to say that the JCF is doing an amazing job in confronting the very dangerous criminals in Jamaica, and they have my 100% support. Similarly, we have invested in the JDF. We have moved the JDF complement from somewhere in the region of about 5,000. They are now 8,000. And the JDF continues to represent the country at the highest, and they play a very important part in the domain awareness, domain control, and internal security of the country. So I'm pleased to report that the investment in security, all the things that we've invested in terms of equipment and technology I won't go into all of that, but we're seeing the results.
Good night to the delegation. I'm David Bromfield, a student at Keville, law student, and also constitutional chairperson for JESAC. I think my question is more directed to the minister.
Sure.
As it pertains the CSME and free movement within the Caribbean region, though I would like to talk about the stipend as well. This looms great on my heart. So sometimes, and I'm going to be, direct, Minister, I feel as though Jamaicans are treated as second-class Caribbean citizens whenever we're traveling within the Caribbean region. I do understand that we do have a privileged passport in comparison to other international passports, but I want to focus more on the French Antilles. Jamaicans require a visa to visit the French Antilles, and it's quite saddening. While Martinique, Guadeloupe, St. Martin are French territories, they're also Caribbean islands. Thankfully, Martinique is now an associate member of CARICOM yesterday, and I saw, Minister, when you were coming at the airport, you said that the CSME and free movement within the Caribbean looms heavy on your heart as well. And so I want to know if we can't get a wave of visa restriction, but a relaxation, similar to St. Martin, the Dutch side, where if you have a full validity US visa, Jamaicans are able to enter the country. The truth is, most Jamaicans, the visa that we apply for and we have is a full validity US visa, not a UK visa and not a Schengen full validity visa. And even when you do that on the French embassy, the wizard, as soon as you put Jamaican passport, it's out of the window. Regrettably, I had to appeal a decision to the French embassy because I was refused, and I knew it was based on my Jamaican passport. Thankfully, that was successful because I knew I qualified. So that's my question, and also in relation to, there's some, I don't have clear clarity. The Gleno a couple years ago spoke about the Schengen visa waiver, and that Jamaica did not submit a couple years ago when the Eastern Caribbean was submitting. I'd also like to know why, if you can say, and what are we doing in relation to that, if we have any plans for a waiver anytime soon.
Let me just put this closer. So the visa issue is a very difficult one. And it's difficult because where we're not granted access, it is, sad to say, usually grounded in conduct which has placed us in a particular category. So every time somebody asks, in fact, I don't like to discuss it because I don't like to admit that, but it is the reality. And when I admit it publicly, it affects my ability to advocate, which I continue to do. Not publicly, because these processes are not public. These are the things that require technical work and quiet diplomacy. That's a general statement on visas and Jamaica's passport. In respect of free movement, I think we're all quite clear that it's not quite free, and full free movement is not quite full. Cayman is an associate member. Bermuda is an associate member. BVI is an associate member. TCI is an associate member. Jamaicans don't have visa-free access to those countries. Cayman made a facilitation that says that if you have a US visa and you're coming from the US, not just have it, you're coming, and this is something that we need to take up again with America, because she's buying it. So there are limitations. We have been explaining to governments that the Jamaica of today is a different Jamaica. When visa-free access was withdrawn from us, it was a time when we were a different country. We have digitized the security in our passports so that fraud is now practically impossible. Our participation in Interpol and APIS systems, in exchanges of information and travel information is now so deep and embedded that there's no need to fear a Jamaican citizen. You will know who has bought a passport, who has bought a ticket. there's no need to.
And you would know who has bought a passport.
Well, it's a different, that's above my pay grade, yeah. So we are telling the different story. We speak about the economic reforms, we speak about our record low, historically low unemployment, the fact that the migratory conduct of Jamaicans is not driven in the same way and in the same magnitude that it once was. Because we are creating opportunities, we are doing more for citizens to stay home so that they don't need to fear an influx with visa-free conduct. With visa-free access. We are making some progress. The article that had spoken about Jamaica not submitting an application when other countries did was not quite accurate. But that's a whole different conversation. What I can say to you is that we continue to have targeted advocacy on the issue. We don't discuss it publicly because that does not garner success, because visa processes are generally very, very jealously guarded by countries. Do you know that many countries need a visa to visit Jamaica?
Yeah.
Right. So there's always a sense that your immigration, your rights of border control are very jealously guarded by countries. And it's a difficult thing to get that.
But Minister, here's what I would say to you. Listen, it is time that we have a net influx of people into Jamaica. It is time that our Jamaicans feel that they can flourish and grow in Jamaica. Our unemployment rate is at 3.2%. That's practically full employment. Practically. So labor is now a constraint on growth. And even with what is happening with the deportation of Jamaicans, in former times we would look at it as a major threat to the country. Now we have to look at it as maybe this is an opportunity for the country to reclaim some skills, because some of the people who are going to come back, they were working in hotels. They got exposed to giving service on an international platform. Some of them may have been working in IT. Some of them have been exposed to other skills and technologies that we should really try to reintegrate them into the society. There are also some demographic issues that we have to pay attention to. Jamaica is a fairly young population, but you know what? We're an aging population. And can you imagine that we're at the point where we're going to say that we need more labor? That is the reality for Jamaica. It's the same thing for Barbados. They've been thinking very seriously about how they can expand their population to keep the economy going. That's where Jamaica is right now, but the mindset of Jamaicans is still have to go overseas to make it. Very soon that will change when people realize that they can't go overseas again and they have to make it in Jamaica. What the government is trying to do is to create the economy so that you can make it in Jamaica. So, listen, man, the next decade for Jamaica is when everybody's going to be begging us to come to their country, because we have the tech skills. They see our people as law-abiding, hard-working, efficient, and productive, and they're going to want us to come, and they're going to remove all the visas. And at that time, we will say, no, Jamaica, the place of choice, to live, work, raise families, do business, and retire in paradise. You come instead. That's what we're going to do.